Hi everybody, welcome to the fifth in our series of HB3 and 30. This time we'll be discussing the move to current year property values and the implementation of the fast growth allotment which was provided for in HB3. This is our agenda for today. First we're going to look into why the legislature decided to move to current year values. Then we're going to address some changes to district budgeting and forecasting practices that would be as a result of this change. We're going to talk about estimates for school years 2020 and 2021. And then we're going to go into looking at how the fast growth allotment is going to work. We'll have a brief discussion of some changes to the new instructional facilities allotment, or the NIFA program. And then we'll address next steps for TEA and districts. These are the relevant staff at TEA who can help you or assist you with any questions you have regarding current year values of the fast growth allotment. There are Leo Lopez, Associate Commissioner for School Finance, Al McKenzie, Director of Forecasting and Fiscal Analysis, Amy Copeland, Assistant Director of State Funding, and Sarah Kahn, Assistant Director of Forecasting and Fiscal Analysis. So why the move to current year values? The move to current year values was recommended as part of the Texas Commission on Public School Finance. One of their major policy recommendations was to move to current year values and to eliminate the misalignment of state and local revenues that can happen when local district property value growth slows or falls. So changing to current year values makes sure that the funding that a district receives will consistently be based on the student need and the entitlement, not the rate of property value growth. And it also allowed the legislature to provide for a higher basic allotment, which increased funding for the vast majority of districts. So in order to understand some of the problems with using the prior year values, we're first going to go into quickly what is the basic structure of school finance in Texas. And the first thing that happens in calculating districts' FSP entitlement is that we calculate the formula entitlement, which is based on the number of students and their district characteristics. Secondly, we provide for an anticipated amount of local share, which is based on the money that a district is able to raise locally from its property taxes. And then state aid makes up the difference. So the state aid makes up the difference between the local property taxes and the formula entitlement. So how did the system work with prior year values? First, we have the formula entitlement, then the local property tax collections. But then we calculated the local share of the FSP actually based on the prior year values. So 1 year before, the district was using the values to collect its local property tax collections. Then we calculate the state aid as the difference between that local share and the local property tax collections. In this case, the fictional district is growing because its local property tax collections now exceed the local share that we based on the prior year values. So when the district's budget gets put together, we add the state aid to the actual local property tax collections, you can see that they exceed the formula entitlement. In this case, the district's budget is larger than other districts in the state with identical students because of the impact of what was known as the lag money. Now, when we come to look at what happened by the move to current year values, you can see in the middle column there, the district with the lag money exceeding its prior entitlement. But once we move to local current year values, the local property tax collections stay the same. But we were able to increase the formula entitlement by increasing the basic allotment. And so for the vast majority of districts, the actual total budget is now higher, even without that lag money, because there's more state aid. So let's look now at one of the problems with prior year values is what happened when values declined. We have the formula entitlement, we have the local property tax collections, and then we have the local share based on prior year values, which is greater than what the district is actually able to collect in the current year because its values have declined. We calculate the state aid as the difference between the formula entitlement and the local share, add that to the local property tax collections, and in this case you can see that the district's budget is not able to meet its entitlement, so they're having less money available to teach those students than other districts with identical student populations. Here's another slide which helps us to discuss the differences between current year and prior year values and the impacts that it had on state district budgets over a 5-year period. You can see that each one of these clusters of bar charts represents a year, years 1 through 5. And we have the blue entitlement line on the left-hand side of each cluster. And you can see that in year 1, where this fictional district had 0 growth rate, the district budget using prior year values is exactly the same as the entitlement. The current year value budget, however, is higher because the entitlement is bigger because the basic allotment was able to be raised by moving to current year values. So another key takeaway from this is that district budgets during using prior year values were inconsistent. They varied according to the value growth rate. You can see the value growth rate is the yellow dot, and the higher the growth rate, as it is in year 5, when it's at 7%, the greater the district budget, but it can fluctuate up and down depending on the size of the growth rate. So in any year in which the growth rate went down, as you can see between years 3 and year 4, where it goes from 4% to 3%, the budget of the district actually goes down as well, even though the district is still growing relative to the prior year. It's just not growing as quickly. So on to changes to district budgeting and forecasting practices. First, we're going to look at how current year values will be used in the school year 2020 FSP formulas. This is what we're going to base the estimates on during the school year. So for the 1920 school year, as starting the year, as we won't have the 2019 current year values available to us yet, we will increase the tax year 2018 values by 5.76%, which is the percentage that the comptroller estimates that it's statewide property value growth, and that was used as part of the budgeting process and is incorporated in the General Appropriations Act from the last legislature. Once we get preliminary tax year 2019 values in February of 2020, we will update the LPE, the legislative payment estimate on which districts' payments are made, in the FSP. So your payment schedule will change from February 2020 onwards and should fairly accurately represent your current year values. Once we get the final 2019 values in August of 2020, we will incorporate those into the summary finance as part of the settle-up process. So districts that want to get a jump start and estimate their 2020 FSP state aid could use their tax year 2019 estimates that you should have from your local county appraisal district during this summer, and you could convert that to a T2 value like we will be using to calculate your local share of FSP by using historical ratios. So here's an example. This is to estimate your 2019 comptroller values. Take your 2019 local appraised value from your county appraisal district and divide that by the same number that you received from them in 2019. This gives you a growth rate. Then multiply that by your tax year 2018 comptroller certified T2 values that you should also have, and that should give you a good estimate of your 2019 tax year T2 value. Make sure to adjust for any Chapter 313 value limitations which are beginning or ending in either of tax year 2018 or tax year 2019 when you're calculating the growth rate. And here's a concrete example. A district with an appraised value of $10 million in tax year 2018 and $10.5 million in tax year 2019 would have a growth rate of 5%. That's 10.5 over 10. If the district's tax year 2018 T2 value was $11 million, then the projected 2019 T2 value would be the 11 million multiplied by 1.05, which comes out to 11.55 million. So on to another slide talking about how budget certainty will be hopefully easier with current year values. Once we get used to it, it should ultimately simplify budgeting for districts. Districts should be confident of always being able to receive their entitlement, and only the state and local split will change as a result of value growth changes. Unanticipated changes, either up or down in property values, are no longer going to change the total amount that you will receive, only the split. So once again, districts can be more confident in receiving their entitlement based on their student counts, regardless of what happens to the pace of growth of property values. Under the new law using current year values, you really will only need to have good projections of your students. You don't need to worry so much about the rate of value growth. On to a fact regarding school years and associated tax years. So going back to this current school year, 2018-19, you'll see that we will be using the tax year 2017 values to compute the local share of the FSP. Tax year 2018 will not be used in FSP. Those values will be skipped. And in 2019-20, we will be using the tax year 2019 values. And then in 2020-21, we'll move on to the tax year 2020 values. Now we'll move on to the fast growth allotment. This was also a recommendation from the Texas Public School Finance Commission that as part of the move to using current year values, we should create a fast growth allotment to recognize the extra costs that fast growing districts have. And we're talking about fast enrollment growth districts here. So there are certain one-time expenses associated with rapid student enrollment growth. Here's the statutory language. It's going to be in the Texas Education Code section 48.111, and it's going to provide this allotment to districts which are in the top quartile of student enrollment growth over the preceding 3 school years. And districts will be provided with an annual allotment equal to the basic allotment multiplied by a weight of 0.04 for each student in ADA. For the 2019-2020 school year, we're going to be using enrollment growth from FY 2017 to 2019. So here's our projected rule adoption schedule. We have to adopt rules for this fast growth allotment. We're hoping for a publish in the Texas Register in August or September of 2019. And at that time, we will have a preliminary list of fast growth districts to be published alongside of the rule. This will be the same list as we have up on our website right now. There will be no change in the methodology that we'll be using to calculate the preliminary list. Then in September, October, there will be a 30-day comment period, and we're aiming for a 2019 adoption with the Texas Register and a December 2019 effective date of the rule. Even though the rule won't be ready until December, it won't be effective until December, we will begin flowing the funds using the existing methodology that we have beginning with September 2019 FSP payment and using estimated ADA data for the 2019-2020 school year. Final amounts will be based on final ADA data and the final adopted rule. And in each subsequent school year, we will have a preliminary list of districts eligible for the allotment after we bring in the full PEIMS enrollment from the prior year in April and May of that school year. So districts will have some certainty about whether they're going to be on the fast growth allotment list by May before the school year starts. So budget planning with the fast growth allotment. Make sure that you pay attention to your ranking on the list. You may not always be on the fast growth list, so we suggest that you budget conservatively. We suggest that you treat the fast growth allotment funds as seed money to pay for one-off items rather than relying on the allotment for recurring expenditures, as it may not always be available. So key point at the bottom, you can come in and out of the fast growth allotment depending on how your rate of growth change, and so plan your expenditures accordingly. On to the new instructional facility allotment, which is another allotment in the FSP that assists districts with the one-time start-off costs of building new campuses. HB3 increased the maximum annual appropriation for NIFA from $25 million to $100 million to align with the increase in the per student amount, which was increased from $250 to $1,000 in 2017. We estimate that for 2020, the funding $100 million should be sufficient to be able to fund the full $1,000 per student. If it's not, then there may have to be a proration of the amount, but it will be a far smaller adjustment than we're currently having to do. So on to next steps. TEA's next steps, we will be standing up a new data collection in the spring and summer of 2020, where we will be wanting districts to submit to us those local appraised values that you get from your county appraisal district to assist us in making estimates and providing you with the maximum tax rate that you'll be able to adopt for your Tier 1 tax rate. And then in rulemaking, the fast growth allotment, as we discussed, target filing date for that is September 2019. So House Bill 3 resources, just to make sure that you stay tuned for updates to what we're doing with House Bill 3, you can go to our website, tea.texas.gov/HB3, where we're constantly updating the information there. And if you have questions regarding anything about House Bill 3, please submit to the email box hb3info@tea.texas.gov. Thank you for listening today.